All right. You guys remember that little, that gay little woke game that we played on stream a while ago, right? Life is Strange? I played through the first game, the DLC, Life is Strange 2, and Life is Strange True Colors, I'm pretty certain. We played through all of them, if I remember correctly, right? We played through and beat all of them? Yeah, I remember that. That was not that long ago, but also it feels like a long time ago. Kind of the reverse of how people often feel, where it's like, it feels like yesterday. This is something that was relatively recent, but feels like so long ago. All except tell me why. Is that in that universe? I don't know if it's part of the universe. Regardless, apparently, despite the overt wokeness of the game, and the fact that the studio very much kind of emanates that very woke vibe, if you will, that very progressive sauce. Apparently, there's been some pretty gross and awful stuff happening at Deck 9, the studio responsible for Life is Strange. And it's not just in the real world, it's also stuff that has affected the games. How hidden Nazi symbols were the tip of a toxic iceberg at the Life is Strange developer Deck 9. Early last year, while working on the next entry in the Life is Strange franchise... Ooh. I guess there's another one coming out. A few developers at Deck 9 stumbled upon something that didn't belong in their game: Nazi symbols. Initially, developers noticed a reference to the number 88 and flagged the issue to their bosses, assuming it was an innocent mistake. But in the ensuing weeks, others found more prominent signs and in-universe labels, such as references to racist memes, the number 18, and the Hegel rune. So for those of you guys who don't know what these are references to, here's the racist meme that they found hidden in the game. So my understanding here is these are devs working on the next Life is Strange game, and they were working on it roughly a year ago, and they discovered these things in the game while working on it that was clearly put in by other devs. So, for those who don't know, the 88 thing is a reference to, it's a dog whistle. You'll see a lot of, like, skinheads and, like, white supremacist gang members and stuff who will oftentimes have an 88 tattooed somewhere prominently showing, such as their neck, their face, their arm, somewhere that they can really show it off. The 88 stands for something. The 8 is meant to be the like a letter of the alphabet, which is H. So it's HH. Sometimes you'll see them just have HH instead of 88, but 88's like the go-to, which stands for Hail Hitler. And the 18, correct me if I'm wrong, is a reference to Hitler's birthday, right? January 8th? Yeah, I'm pretty certain. 18, no, it's Adolf Hitler, my bad. Listen, I'm not caught, I don't know the Nazi code. I'm not that versed on it, my bad. I'll try to learn my Nazi language better in the future. 18 is a white supremacist alphanumeric code for Adolf Hitler, the 1 being A and the 8 being H. It is most commonly associated with the British white supremacist group Combat 18 or C18. Occasionally, Combat 18 cells appear in the United States, but they tend to be small and short-lived. Old school racist 18 is one of their logos. That's crazy. And then one of their symbols is the esoteric insignia of the Schutzstaffel, which is the double lightning bolt. They hit a double lightning bolt in the game as well. So these aren't even devs and things that were found in the first Life is Strange games, or the second or the third, or the spin-offs. This is all stuff that was going on the next Life is Strange game behind the scenes currently at the studio. As the number of possible hate symbols mounted, staff grew increasingly concerned that someone was putting these items in their game deliberately as a dog whistle to white supremacists. Nazi imagery would be inappropriate in most games, but in a Life is Strange title, the dissonance was especially frightening. Since its inception, the series has been lauded for thoughtful portrayals of marginalized individuals. Its most recent entry, Life is Strange True Colors, won Games for Impact at the Game Awards in 2021 and a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Video Game. With such a reputation, developers tell me there was an expectation that any whiff of hate speech would be immediately removed and thoroughly investigated. but as weeks went by, management remained silent and staff unrest grew. This wasn't the first time executives had failed to act when marginalized individuals at the studio felt unsafe. According to over a dozen current and former employees across several departments, most of whom spoke to me on a condition of anonymity for fear of reprisal, Deck 9's management has long let a toxic work culture fester at the studio. They claim the C-suite has protected multiple abusive leaders, encouraged crunch, and allowed bullying of individuals advocating internally for more authentic representation in Life is Strange. Now, on the cusp of announcing its next game and struggling to secure other projects, Deck 9 leadership is facing growing internal discontent from those harmed by its inaction. While the developers of Life is Strange love and believe in the series, many of them increasingly struggle to reconcile the values the games promote with the culture in which they are made. Ooh. I bet it's a racist trans person? Nightmoth, why would you think that? I am very curious what led you to say that, Nightmoth. Why do you think that, Nightmoth? Like, why would that be your assumption? I'm very curious. Regardless, Deck 9 Games was founded under the name Idle Minds in 1997, and for most of its history, worked on games very different from Life is Strange. For a long time, it focused on PlayStation games such as Cool Borders 3 and 4, Rallycross 2, and Neopets: The Darkest Fairy. Idle Minds also assisted on multiple Ratchet & Clank games. The studio briefly pivoted to mobile game development in the early 2010s before vanishing for a few years, re-emerging as Deck 9 in 2017. This wasn't... Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, it was a different company that made the first couple Life is Strange games. Then they got picked up by another studio, so this isn't even the original Life is Strange studio. These are just the guys that made the most recent Life is Strange games, which, you know, they're good, but this isn't like a issue that seems to have been a problem from the start of this series, by the looks of things. At least based on what I've read so far. Will my nose stop itching? God, it's like the very edge of my nose, too. Alright. This wasn't just a name change. Equipped with proprietary toolset StoryForge, Deck 9 announced it would focus on narrative games, beginning with the Square Enix-owned Life is Strange. Deck 9 first took the reins from series creator Don't Nod Entertainment, that was them, on a prequel, Life is Strange Before the Storm, though Don't Nod followed up with Life is Strange 2 in 2018. I like how Don't Nod made all of the best ones. It officially left the series behind after that, making Deck 9 the logical successor, with Life is Strange True Colors in 2021, and the Life is Strange Remastered Collection in 2022. Deck 9's first crack at Square Enix's popular narrative series involved significant crunch, and while efforts were made to improve workloads on True Colors, over time never fully vanished. One anonymous individual told me they worked 70 to 80 hours a week for an entire month straight on True Colors. Another described taking on weeks of crunch to protect another team member, saying it was never mandated, but that there was always too much to get done in the allotted time. Much of the crunch, developers say, was the direct result of the relationship between Deck 9 and Square Enix. Several people told me it felt as though Square Enix had sold Life is Strange to the lowest bidder, and that this was frequently reflected in production schedules with tight deadlines and small budgets. Multiple people were aware of producers being forced by their bosses and Square Enix to rework production schedules, so it looked like every milestone fit within a very limited development time frame, despite their arguments that it was impossible. One called Square Enix, and specifically Square Enix London, who Deck 9 worked with directly, bullies. Another source elaborated Square Enix put a lot of pressure on our people, so that toxicity started to bleed into our environment too. Others I spoke to expressed frustration at Square Enix for a different reason. It was far too hands-on with the script. Sure, Life is Strange is a Square Enix-owned IP, but sources told me Square Enix seemed oddly reluctant or outright hostile to the diverse themes and ideas that Life is Strange fans love. For instance, multiple people recalled an incident during True Color's development where Square Enix told multiple developers it didn't want Life is Strange to be thought of as the gay game. Dog. Do you want to hear you want to hear the sand that's going to get rubbed into the wound of this news? The right has jumped on this story, and they have made the most shameless narrative out of it that you can possibly imagine. The narrative they've created is that Life is Strange is a woke game franchise, and the woke developers of this woke game franchise are under a scandal for being abusive. And that this is what happens when you let woke people make games. Meanwhile, the actual abuse that's happening is the publisher that is having massive overreach and being hostile towards the devs who are the woke ones who want to make the games woker, and the abuse in question is the publisher not letting them do that. That is really the extra dirt in the wound, you know what I'm saying? Quote, there's a lot of press out there praising True Colors for having the first bisexual lead in a Life is Strange game, said Mallory Littleton, a narrative designer who worked at Deck 9 on multiple Life is Strange titles. Quote, even in our press guides from Square Enix, all the way up until review copies were out, we were not to say anything about Alex's sexuality, period, at all. And then they did the advanced copies, and all of these reviews came out saying how amazing it was to finally see an explicitly bi protagonist. And after that, Square was like, just kidding, Alex is absolutely canonically 100% bisexual. Square Enix declined to comment on this article, but instead pointed IGN to Deck 9's response, which we've included in full at the end of the article. Fraught as the relationship with Square Enix was, some people I spoke to at Deck 9 laid the blame for the difficult relationship not at the feet of the publisher, but Deck 9 management. They said that managers at Deck 9 never seemed willing to ask Square Enix for more time or pushback on notes the developers disagreed with. How then was Square Enix even supposed to know the studio was struggling? Multiple sources gave the impression in our conversations that Deck 9's relationship with Square Enix for Life is Strange was largely one of convenience rather than any deep appreciation for the series. Square Enix liked that Deck 9 was willing to do the game for a lower budget than other studios, and it had the StoryForge tool, which was made for narrative adventure games. Deck 9, for its part, needed a good IP to pair with StoryForge. Telltale already had rights to many of the most appealing ones, and other large licenses weren't willing to work with an untested studio. However, many developers told me Deck 9 management seemed unprepared for dealing with a game with serious themes, especially when it comes to thoughtful portrayals of diverse individuals. Man. I really hope all this is able to be resolved. I'm really upset that publishers are not pushing wokeness, but are in reality limiting it when it is desired by the artists making games. And meanwhile, when it exists in any whatever the right means when they say wokeness, when it exists in any perceptible degree, the right melts down about it, and it's the end of the world. And on the next page, they start complaining about how they don't have the right to express their opinions because people get upset at them about it. I genuinely have no sympathy whatsoever for conservatives at this point who are trying to weaponize this kind of stuff against the left. If you are a gamer conservative, like, commentary guy, and when you see stuff like this, you're not focusing on the fact that publishers buy and sell IPs, treat them like trash, sit on them, sell them off to the lowest bidder, give them like a pittance in order to make what they hope to be a successful game, or don't even care if it is. I don't even know. The mistreatment of the workers, the restrictions of them being able to achieve their artistic vision. I mean, if you're not talking about that and you're instead trying to find a way to make this how woke bad, then you're genuinely just scum. of the gaming community. You do nothing good. You do nothing good for the gaming community if you're part of that sphere. I really hope that this, like, anti-dev culture that's gotten really big within right-wing gaming culture starts to die out. Regardless, though, if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like on the video, the stream, the VOD, whatever form you're watching this in. It really helps a lot and means a lot to me as well. It's totally free and takes half a second, so smash that motherfucking thumbs up button. You can also consider subscribing, ring the bell icon, so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. You can also join my fan Discord, where I do watch parties, call-in streams, and notifications whenever I go live or upload a new video. And you can also support me financially by donating, subscribing, or gifting us on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch stream, live stream elements, or Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. See that? I was talking like one of those like auctioneer guys.